Christopher Scott is our next speaker. Awesome man. He received a master's degree from University of St. Thomas in '99. He's currently an adjunct professor of history and government at HCC. This is the most remarkable thing that I think about him. He studied at Ludwig von Mises Institute, Mises University program. He is the master, the Mises Institute is the master of Austrian economics, also considered free markets, which have practically disappeared under the current administration. The previous administration, we're losing our capitalistic society. So, without further ado, I give you Christopher Scott.
Wow, what a build-up. I guess I'm the master. I didn't realize that. Boy, that sun is brutal, I'll tell you. I feel like I'm on the stage in Hollywood. Thanks for coming, guys. What an awesome crowd. Totally vocal. I love it. And as one of the other speakers said before, we got to keep up the momentum. We just don't show up on April 15th. We got to be here July 4th. We got to show up on January 30th. Another bad day when we surrender more of our private property to the government. You know what I'm talking about, private property taxes, right? I see that federal building back there. That's got me a little worried. You guys in the front, help me out. If you see a little red dot on my forehead all of a sudden, just let me know. I don't want them taking me out here. What a day though, April 15th. God, my dad always hated that day. I kind of stayed away from Dad like the first couple of weeks of April in that cozy little Cape Cod back on Long Island. I'd sit in the living room and kind of look over at Dad and say, "Hey Mom, what's going on with Dad?" "Well, no, leave him alone, son. He's doing the taxes." Yeah. So, and we'd hear him mumbling under his breath, "There you goddamn IRS." And God forbid he broke a pencil. We all kind of like froze for a second. But just like one of my heroes, besides the founding fathers and the framers of the Constitution, one of my local heroes, a contemporary hero, Ron Paul. He's the man. I like to look to the Constitution for most of my issues that I discuss with my students and so forth. And you know, it's a decent document, not too bad. We got to remember that they put a few things in there that we could probably do without. They've got the Commerce Clause, where they can regulate all the commerce with foreign nations and among the several states. That's not too great. It's a big umbrella now, and they put a lot of stuff under that. And of course, that elastic clause, the necessary and proper clause, where they stretch all that power. Of course, why we're here today, the taxation clause, and they built slavery right into the thing, the 3/5 clause and the supremacy clause. So there's a few clauses in there that we could have struck out. I just wish good old Thomas Jefferson hadn't been over in France, and he came over. And Patrick Henry also didn't show up at the Constitutional Convention. He said, "Oh, I'm not going to go, I smell a rat." But we needed him and Jefferson there to support George Mason and Madison as they were trying to fight off the evil Alexander Hamilton. But it's all about education. As an educator, I like to always tell people you got to get educated, and I'm going to talk about a few other taxes today besides the income tax. I'm going to talk about the inflation tax and the war tax. And Sheldon Richman is a free market economist and historian, and he writes for the Foundation for Economic Education, and I think also on the Future of Freedom Foundation. And he said, "There's no shortcut to a free society. We will have to advance freedom by becoming as knowledgeable and as articulate in our advocacy as possible in order to attract those who want to understand freedom." And that's what we've got to do. We've got to educate ourselves. And as I was introduced, she said that Natalie said that I studied the Mises University, which is free market economics, Austrian economics, like Ron Paul has studied for many years. And we've got to understand that stuff. It's not that hard. We've got to get there. We've got to keep studying and working on it. And so that way we're able to fight off those people that want to tell us, "Oh, the government's good and the government's great." And I see so many people these days confused, and they really can't articulate the position that they need to articulate because they haven't done enough of the studying, and they just kind of go and look at those sound bites on CNN or Fox and so forth. So I'm going to talk about the other taxes, and I'm going to talk about education. And I look at it as immoral. Taxation is theft. Now, even though the founding fathers the framers put a few bad clauses in there, they did a pretty good job on the document. But we got to hand it to them. They didn't try to hide the taxation clause. They put it right on top. On the list of congressional powers, they didn't try to hide it at number 8 or 9 or number 11. They didn't try to stick it underneath the, Congress shall establish post offices or post roads. They put it right on the top. We're going to steal your property. They put it right up there, number 1, the taxation clause. But I look at taxation as immoral because it's the use of force. No one willingly surrenders their private property. We don't run down there on April 15th and go, hey guys, can you take some of our money? We don't run up to little people, those nefarious types on the streets and go, hey, you want to take my wallet? You want to take my purse? We don't do that. We don't surrender it. That guy on the street has to take your wallet or your purse by force. The government has to take our private property from us by force. It's coercion. And we know that force is immoral. We know what the Christians had to face in the Colosseum. They were forced into the Colosseum by the Romans to face beasts and gladiators. We know what Hitler did to the Jews, forced them into concentration camps. What Stalin did to his people, forced people onto the collectivized farms in the 1930s. And we know Stalin murdered at least 20 million people. Force is immoral, okay? No matter whether it's a small act where someone sticks a gun in your face to rob you, or on a large scale as Hitler, Stalin, and all the rest throughout history. So I look at it, it's probably constitutional. There's probably been some challenges. I know people talk about the 1895 Supreme Court decision where they said that the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional, but it's a little sticky. It deals with apportionment and a few other things. And then people say, well, back in 1913, all the states didn't sign the amendment, so it's unconstitutional. But after 96 years, I don't think they're going to give it up. But that doesn't mean it's right. It's immoral. Taxation is theft.